All right, let's get this out of the way up front. I don't care what you think about HOAs, but if you ever find yourself standing on my land clipboard in hand telling me how to arrange my life, well, you'd better have packed a lunch because it's going to be a long day for you. Seriously, picture this. I'm knee-deep in sawdust minding my own business, and next thing I know, I've got two guys in spotless polos trying to inspect my barns like they're the sheriff in a spaghetti western. Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec so you get the full flavor. My family's ranch, well, what we still call a ranch though, these days it's just 120 acres of peace and quiet, has been in my blood for 3 generations. My granddad bought it back when a handshake could buy you 50 acres and a cold beer, and it trickled down to my dad and now to me. I spent years away from it, did my time in the Army, got my degree on the GI Bill, tried city life for a while. But man, after one too many paper-thin apartment walls and landlords who'd rather fix their own hair than a busted pipe, I figured why not go home. Out here, no neighbors looking over your fence. No noise except the birds and the occasional tractor. That was the dream anyway until the development came along. Some suit bought up the land next to mine, clear-cut everything, threw up a bunch of identical McMansions with their plastic lawns and minivan driveways, then stuck a name out front like Whispering Pines or Sunset Estates. I just call it the development. You know, the kind same house copy-pasted for 100 families and a price tag that makes your eyeballs sweat. But I stayed cool, put up new surveyor-marked boundary lines, pro-level signage, big reflective, no trespassing signs, every 50 feet, steel gate up front, the works. I even left the gate closed most of the time, only unlocked for deliveries. Never expected I'd need to actually lock it up tight. I thought that would be enough. And for a while it was. Folks moving in mostly kept to themselves. Sure, construction was noisy, but they respected start and stop times. Then the HOA got involved. Now, if you've never had the pleasure, let me explain HOAs. Homeowners associations are these little fiefdoms where folks who always wanted to be class president get to make rules about mailbox color and lawn height. Sometimes I swear the power goes straight to their heads. They start thinking their rules stretch beyond their subdivision like their clipboard is a magic wand. Which brings me to that Tuesday. I remember it like it was yesterday. Early spring, cool air, bit of a breeze, sun just peeking over the barns. I was in the middle of a big order, some 10 grand dining table with inlays more complicated than a NASA blueprint. Workshop smelled like fresh-cut maple. Headphones on respirator over my face. I just happened to glance at the security monitor and, well, let's just say it wasn't UPS. 2 brand new white pickup trucks side by side rolling up my gravel drive like they owned the place. Not the kind of trucks you'd see hauling hay or mudding on the weekend either. These were the $70,000, never seen a dirt road. Please admire my chrome-type trucks. They had the development's name stamped on the door, some fancy emblem, the works. To even get onto my driveway, they had to pass my gate, pass a dozen glaring private property signs just to make sure you knew you're not supposed to be here. I shut down my saw step outside, dust and sweat still on my hands, apron still on phone in my pocket because I had a feeling I'd need it. Out steps Mr. Polo shirt, clipboard in hand, acting like he's some kind of health inspector. His sidekick, let's call him the enforcer, is all muscle and attitude sunglasses, so shiny you could see your future in them. Clipboard guy introduces himself as the HOA president. Names are generic out here. Call him Bob if you want. And says his buddy's the grounds committee chair. They actually call themselves the neighborhood patrol, like they're deputized or something. I half expected badges. Bob tells me they're here for a quarterly safety and compliance inspection, says there's been reports of unpermitted commercial activity and unsightly structures. I kid you not, he points at my barns, which are still standing straight after 60 years, and acts like he's offended. So I spell it out. This is my land, not theirs, not part of the HOA, never has been, never will be. They drove past a dozen signs to get here, and I'm asking right now for them to leave. That's when I pull out my phone and start recording slow, obvious, like in one of those nature documentaries where the gazelle just knows the lion is watching. Take a few pictures of them, their trucks, their plates. Let them see me do it. The enforcer starts puffing up, getting in my space. "Who do you think you are?" he says, like I'm the one out of line. Bob tries to smooth things over, talking about property values and community standards and how they need to inspect my barns. You know, for the good of the neighborhood. Sure, buddy. I tell them one last time to get off my land, and when I turn around and walk back to my house, I figure they'll finally get the message. But nope. From the kitchen window, I watch these two idiots high-five clipboard out, heading toward my workshops like they're about to grade my woodworking. The enforcer leans against his truck like he's settling in for a picnic. That's when I decide it's time to stop playing nice. I call the sheriff's office non-emergency line because I'm not a jerk, and let them know I've got two trespassers on my land trying to enter my workshops, all on video. They say a deputy will be there soon. Then I call up an old buddy who runs a towing company. The guy's hauled semis out of ditches. Nothing rattles him. I explain what's going on, ask if he can tow a couple trucks off my property. He laughs. Turns out this isn't his first time dealing with the development crowd. Within 10 minutes, this monster of a tow truck comes thundering down my driveway, engine so loud you could feel it in your teeth. The driver hops out, all work boots and no nonsense, and tells the HOA guys they look lost. He's been asked to tow their vehicles. Bob tries to play lawyer, shouting about harassment, but the tow guy just shrugs and starts backing up to their trucks. And right then, the sheriff's deputy rolls in, a woman I've met before, professional, sharp as a tack. The HOA president rushes over, squawking about theft and official business, but she just waves him off, comes over to me, asks for my side. I show her the video, the pictures, everything. She watches it all face, going from polite to stone cold serious. After she's seen enough, she walks back to Bob. Asks, "Were you told you were trespassing?" He starts rambling about charters and codes. She cuts him off, tells him straight, "This isn't your land. Your rules mean squat here. And you're lucky I don't haul you both in for criminal trespass." Then she turns to the tow truck driver and gives him the go-ahead. Bob and his muscle lose it, yelling, threatening, waving their arms. But it doesn't matter. Both their fancy trucks get loaded up and hauled out, and they're left standing in my driveway, phones out, calling for a ride like lost kids on the first day of school. And that should have been the end, right? You'd think a little humiliation and a couple thousand in towing fees would do the trick. But nope. 3 days later, I get this letter in my mailbox from some law firm, all, whereas, and heretofore demanding I pay for their towing, and $5,000 for damages and humiliation, threatening to sue if I don't pay up. Well, that was about the last straw. I took the letter and every scrap of evidence I had to the meanest, sharpest attorney in the county. She looks it all over, watches the video, and grins like she's just been handed a winning lottery ticket. We file suit $22,500 for trespass interference with business legal costs and punitive damages, all buttoned up with timestamps, photos, deputies report, the works. Not even 2 days later, the HOA's insurance company calls my lawyer, desperate to settle. We throw out a number, $25,000, and two little extras, a formal apology read out loud at their next meeting, and a permanent bylaw saying the HOA has absolutely zero say over my land ever, with my property parcel listed clear as day. They agree instantly. Couple weeks go by and I'm holding a check for $25,000. Used some of it for a solar-powered automatic gate, 4K security cameras, intercom, the whole fortress setup. Framed that apology letter and hung it in my shop's bathroom, where I get a good laugh every morning. Best part, a month later, a neighbor calls me, nearly choking from laughing so hard. Turns out the HOA had to update their official maps, mark my property as an indefinite no-go zone, permanently off limits to HOA business, written right there in the meeting minutes. Now every new board member will have to stare at that big red circle and remember, no, seriously, don't go there. After all that, things finally settled down. The two guys who caused all this, the president resigned and the enforcer moved away. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. The new board keeps their distance. The neighbors are friendlier, and I go back to doing what I love, working wood, enjoying the silence, and knowing nobody's about to come swaggering up my drive with a clipboard ever again. Funny thing is, if they just turned around and left when I asked, none of this would have happened. They could have saved themselves a world of trouble and a truckload of money. But some people, they just have to learn the hard way. And I guess that's justice out here. Sometimes the system works, sometimes the bully gets taught a lesson, and sometimes you end up with better security and a better story to tell. So let me ask you, where's the line between standing your ground and going too far? Ever dealt with a neighbor or a little king trying to run your life? What's your story? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear about your battles, your wins, your losses. Let's get the debate rolling. What's fair, what's over the line, and what would you have done in my boots? If you enjoyed the story, give it a share. Maybe someone else needs a reminder that you don't have to put up with nonsense on your own turf.